So we're talking about macromolecules, and we have already talked about carbohydrates. And if you remember carbohydrates, they have the elements C, H, 2O. So that's carbo, and then water is hydrate. The next one is lipids, and so we've done carbohydrates, and now we're going to talk about lipids. It will probably take a couple of these video clips to get through lipids, and then we're going to talk about proteins and then nucleic acids. So off to lipids. Lipid is just a general term for molecules which do not mix with water. And so here's a picture of a particular lipid. This is an oil. And if you put oil with water and you mix them up, like for example, if you have salad dressing and you shake up the salad dressing like an Italian salad dressing, you have to pour it on the salad pretty quickly, otherwise the oil and the water will separate from each other. And so that's what's happening here. Oil is not the only lipid. Other lipids include fats, waxes, steroid hormones are another one. So it's really a big general class, and the thing that's in common is that they don't mix with water. The reason that they don't mix with water is that they are nonpolar. So if you remember what water looks like molecularly, it's H2O. And so for every oxygen, there are 2 hydrogens. And it's this bent molecule, and the reason it's bent is that a couple of its extra electrons are paired and up here, and they kind of push the hydrogen down, which is way more than you need to know for my class. But what you do need to know for my class is that the extra electrons spend more time here with the with the oxygen. And so you have a slightly negative charge here, and the hydrogen side is slightly positive. And so the thing that's going on with the water molecule compared to the fat, here's a fat molecule, and this is a fatty acid. Don't worry too much about this end because it's not totally true for this end, but this is going to be connected to something else, so this part won't be on there. It'll be the O will be attached to something else. So just look at this part, which is the major part of the fatty acid. So the major part of the oil. So if you think about this hydrogen, that hydrogen doesn't pull the electrons any harder than that one, and that one doesn't pull any harder than that one. They all pull about the same. So there's no funny charge distribution. I can't put a slightly negative or slightly positive charge in any particular place. So if you're a water molecule, you're going to be much more attracted to another water molecule. Than you would be to this thing, because these two are both polar and this is nonpolar. So here's the water molecule. Again, it's attracted to another water molecule. The negative side of this one will be attracted to the positive side of this water molecule. And so the reason that oil and water separate is that the water molecules are attracted to each other by this type of bonding. It's called hydrogen bonds. And they're not attracted to the lipids, so they tend to shun the lipid and keep the lipid far away from them. Another name for nonpolar is hydrophobic, and that's why I have the picture of the guy afraid of water, or maybe he just doesn't want to drown, I don't know. But hydro is for water, phobic is fear. Elements in lipids are carbon, hydrogen, and a little bit of oxygen. So what we saw with carbohydrates is that you had CH2O, carbo, and then the water is hydrate. That's not true with this. You've got carbon, hydrogen, and then just a little bit of oxygen. So this is not the ratio for lipids. Carbon, hydrogen, and just a little bit of oxygen. Oops. So examples of lipids. The first example is triglycerides, and that's butter and oil. And then phospholipids. These are going to be extremely important to us. They are in cell membranes. So the lipid, because it's hydrophobic, because it's nonpolar, it doesn't mix with water. And so this stuff is a barrier to the water outside the cell and the water inside the cell. So that's why lipids are super important in cells. And then waxes. You'll see waxes on plants. So the really shiny stuff in this plant is wax. And the reason that they have this is that when it's warm, you don't want to lose, or when it's very dry, I guess is a better thing, you don't want to lose too much water. And so the waxes will tend to stop the loss of water. And then finally, here's a wax in the ear canal, and that's thought to maybe stop insects from going in. maybe to help water from staying in the ear. And then the last one are steroid hormones, and these are special because they're not made out of the same. Well, how should I say this? They're not made out of the same monomers as the others. And they do have some fatty acids that are stuck onto them, but their base is this kind of funny looking ring structure. Their base is cholesterol, and so they have this ring structure that's not true of the others. And so these are the adrenal glands that sit right on top of your kidneys, that are found in your back, just above your waist. And the adrenal glands secrete some steroid hormones. The testes and the ovaries secrete some steroid hormones. There are other types of hormones that are made from proteins. So what we'll do is go over we'll at least go over this one, and we'll talk a bit about that one too, and we'll talk a little bit about this one, not so much about the waxes. So functions of lipids. First of all, the fats store energy long term. So in animals, we tend to need to carry our energy in very compact forms, and the most compact energy source are lipids. And so this is a cross-section of what's called adipose tissue. And here's the cell, and right inside the cell is this fat droplet. So you can see the nucleus is squished way over to the side, and most of the cell is taken up with this big fat droplet. So that's adipose tissue, which is found right under your skin. It also insulates the body, and so here's a picture of some polar bears, and they have a large layer of fat, and that helps to insulate the body so they don't get cold. Another is that it helps to cushion and protect organs. And so here's adipose around the eyes, around the eyeballs, and it helps keep them in place. You also have some above the kidneys, around the kidneys. And one danger to losing weight really fast, if you lose a ton of weight, one problem that can happen sometimes is that the kidneys can drop, and that's a really dangerous situation. So that's one of the reasons you shouldn't crash diet. You should lose weight slowly if you need to lose weight. Chemical messengers, and so these are the steroid hormones that we had talked about earlier. Remember, the cell membrane is made out of a lipid, and so that's the thing that keeps the water from the inside separate from the water the water outside the cell separate from the water inside the cell. So steroid hormones are really cool because they are also lipids, and they'll actually be able to go right through this lipid layer. And so that's what they do. They go right in, and then they fit with this receptor, and then you have the receptor and the hormone together, and that actually goes right to a receptor on DNA, and it tells the DNA to go ahead and tell the cell what to do. So this steroid hormone is telling the DNA directly, hey, go, 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 and maybe it will make a protein for making bigger muscles, for example. So the last thing, and a really important one, is that lipids are a major part of cell membranes. They are phospholipids, and this is, out of all the stuff we're talking about today in lipids, this is probably the most important one. And so here they are, and this is actually hydrophilic, which is kind of weird because lipids are not hydrophilic. So I always put a smile on these because they like water. But this part is the hydrophobic part, and we're going to spend a whole unit on the cell membrane, so we're going to spend a ton of time on that. But this whole thing, they're called the tails. This is the part that's actually made out of lipid. These things that are chemically attached are actually charged, and they mix quite well with water. So I think I'm going to pause right here, and we'll go into the types next.